Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Well, welcome back, everyone. Okay, still not feeling great. It's been an interesting week, to say the least, and certainly an interesting last 48 hours for a number of different reasons. And I'll tell you what, I want to spend a great deal of this episode talking about preparation. And I know that preparation for a number of different things is a subject that I've brought up on the show before. And it's something that I hope that everybody's sort of made particular moves in one direction or another. And there are numerous other shows, again, that solely focus in on preparation. But I want to start off by basically saying this, that the damage from this Hurricane Helene has been absolutely awful. And it, again, stretches way beyond Florida. It's through every single state, from Florida all the way up through Ohio, all the way east through North Carolina, and a number of other states. I've seen endless footage of a lot of different places. Some places I've been to, some places I haven't, and they're completely wiped out. And again, when people think of hurricanes, they just think of a couple of states potentially where, there's going to be a direct impact of some kind, but that wasn't the case here, of course, in Southwest Ohio. In fact, when we started to get rain on Friday, it was just basic rain. I mean, there was nothing to it. There was some wind, but again, it wasn't terrible. I've seen worse wind. I mean, we've had in the past from hurricanes that have made their way all the way up through Ohio, we've had 90-mile-an-hour sustained winds here in Ohio before, and we've had 90-mile-an-hour winds, again, sustained, and we've kept power. So it's odd that would be the case this particular time, but weather-wise, everything was bone dry. I mean, it hasn't rained, and I'm not sure how long. It's been weeks since it's rained, so everything is bone dry here. And then when it started to rain and the wind started to blow even just a little bit, there are down trees, down branches, down power lines, exploding transformers, the whole thing. So just in our neighborhood, I believe there was at the very least one transformer that exploded. And here's, again, I'm sort of all over the place right now on this, so you're going to have to forgive me. I'm still ill, and a lot's gone on here over the last 48 hours, certainly without having any power. But power's back on now, which is why I'm recording the show. And I just have to tell you that this last 48 hours has been one hell of an epiphany on the fact that America is not prepared. That we are not prepared for any kind of a sustained power outage whatsoever. And I want to run through a number of different scenarios here and some observations that I've made here over the last 48 hours that are beyond evident that people are not prepared. People have no idea what a week's worth of not having power would be like, 2 weeks worth, 3 weeks worth, etc. You've heard me bring up Kash Patel, and I've played the audio of him saying on the Sean Ryan show that America isn't ready for this, and he sort of says it kind of in passing and describes, again, a grid outage and what that would mean. Again, resources, so to speak, would be stretched far too thin, and your average American, again, would not have anything around them that they would actually need to make it on their own in most cases. In fact, and I don't mean to disparage these people, but I will say this. It's easier said than done to have a YouTube channel about preparation and tell people that here's how you can get prepared for this, that, or the other, and what you should buy and what you should have, etc., etc. I'm going to flat out say it. Even those people with YouTube channels on preparation, they're not prepared. They just aren't. They have no idea what lies ahead here or could lie ahead. And again, I'm not fear-mongering here, and I'm not trying to be fatalist. I'm just going to run through, again, like I said, a number of different observations that I've made and how there's no way that your average American is ready for any weeks-long, multiple weeks-long, or even months-long power outage of any kind. Again, with this hurricane, you have numerous towns and cities and entire counties, of course, in Florida underwater, stretching all the way through, of course, Alabama and Georgia, up through Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, and then all the states east of that, if not states just west of that as well. But you have bridges down. You have transportation completely shut down. Like I said, no electricity, a number of different things. No available resources, no ability to travel from point A to point B to get what you need. You take individuals who are in, medical peril of any kind, and any resources, again, that would be set aside for them, like EMS, fire, police, what have you, even they would be stretched way too thin. So this is, again, just some of what I've observed even driving around just within the last couple of days here. And again, where I live, we only had a power outage for just over 24 hours. So it's too much. So let me run through, again, just some of the sort of basics here regarding electricity and what electricity is doing for people within their own homes. And then, of course, what would happen if they don't have the necessary resources to maintain some level of electricity, certainly to refrigerators or anything of that nature. Again, I'm still not well, and my voice is cutting out, so my apologies on this. Just very quickly, sort of from a health standpoint, before I get into the fact that we're not prepared as a nation for something that could happen. I'm 100% certain at this point that cough suppressant drugs and cough suppressant companies are completely full of shit. That they have to be, it's a complete racket. I've consumed probably 2.5 bottles of cough suppressant over the last, couple of days, and it doesn't stop anything. In fact, I would go so far as to say it exacerbates a cough. So, yeah, cough suppressants can go straight to hell. They're making money hand over fist by tricking people into believing that they actually help anything, and they clearly don't. In fact, the best thing that I've found thus far are these Ricola cough suppressant lozenges. It's honey lemon and echinacea. And I fall asleep with these in my mouth, which I'm sure is not a good decision to make, but it's gotten to a point where I basically cough myself to the point where I just pass out from exhaustion. And then I sleep for like 2 hours, and then I wake up coughing for another hour. Then I fall asleep for another 3 hours, and then I wake up. That's basically how it's been every day for the last week. So that's good stuff. Again, not jabbed. It's not a jab-related thing. I was certainly shed on. I have no doubt about that. And then, of course, the weather shifting the way that it did, going from 90-some-odd degrees last Saturday to, of course, almost overnight being in the low 70s and then high 60s and then raining and cloudy and leaves falling and all of that. That entire pressure shift is what's thrown my entire body out of whack. But anyway, yeah, healthcare my ass. The whole, the whole cough suppressant game is quite the racket. Okay, anyway, with all of that aside, when it comes to preparation and situational stuff, let me just run through a few things that I've noticed here. First of all, when it comes to refrigerators, you can keep a refrigerator without power, with food in it, from what I've heard and what I've read, for approximately 4 to 5 hours, give or take. Again, without electricity, assuming that you keep the door closed, and that's the way that goes. And then you have to hook it up to electricity somehow, hopefully via a generator, if a person has one of those. And of course, the gasoline that comes with maintaining a generator, along with the oil that comes with maintaining a generator. A gas-powered one, of course, is what I'm referring to, but you then plug in your refrigerator for approximately an hour or so, if not longer than that, and then you unplug it, and then it will sustain itself again for another 4+ hours. So it's basically a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 hours unplugged is fine, and then plug it in for an hour, and then you're back to 4. This sounds nice and dandy, and it sounds, like a fine plan, Except when you stretch out that timeline, you're screwed. There's no way that your average American has a generator, let alone enough gasoline to maintain that generator, to maintain the refrigerator, to maintain the food inside. So this is essentially the point that I'm making, and if you can create a visual in your head, it's not just a set of dominoes falling over. I would compare it more to a chain, and links in a chain. And when one of the links in the chain breaks, both sides go slack, which means you've got to figure out how to repair that link to make sure that the chain is again taut, once again, and operating the way that it should. When it comes to freezers, these can typically go without power and remain frozen, assuming that they're packed, with plenty of frozen things for approximately 48 hours, if not maybe a little bit longer. And then, of course, you have to plug them in for a set amount of hours, and then you can unplug them again, and they'll go again for another 48 hours. So you're trying to maintain, of course, a certain level of temperature within these appliances. But again, that falls back on one of the links being owning a generator, and then having enough gasoline and oil to maintain the generator. Again, if people don't have these things, then you're screwed. It basically just means that whatever you have in these devices and in these appliances is going to go bad if you don't start cooking them and eating them almost immediately. Again, this is not something that your average American is thinking about. They're too busy staring in their iPad and playing video games and dicking around with things that don't matter to put their money, effort, or thought into something like maintaining particular appliances that can help maintain certain kinds of foods. Again, the next thing, of course, is water. Your tap water will work fine for a little while without power, but then eventually, electricity is what is responsible for pumping the water into people's homes. And if that goes down, well, then you're left with what? You're left with whatever water you have on your property, whether it be bottled well water or whatever. But again, do you think that the vast majority of Americans, let alone a small fraction of Americans, have enough water at their disposal to consume, let alone wash themselves if they had to, in a massive power outage, or even, like I said, a week or 2 weeks worth of not having power? The vast majority don't. And I'll even say this too, that these individuals, again, who boast about having hurricane-proof this or hurricane-proof that, or a brand new home, or, well, we have the infrastructure that's brand new around us and blah, 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 and we don't have those problems and we won't have those problems. To those people, I would say they're out to lunch. They're absent-minded. Having a new thing doesn't mean that it's going to work, which again is another link in this chain, that just because people have new stuff doesn't mean that the new stuff is going to work. If some of those things break down, well, it's no different than having something that's old that breaks down. Broken's broken any way you slice it. So if something breaks, well, that's another link. And that's another link in the chain that has to be fixed, which just creates more slack, which potentially creates more problems. And it will create more problems. So, again, there are people who don't even have backup battery chargers for their cell phones. This is an issue. This is a big issue. And people who don't have those things, you can't expect those individuals to have water. You can't expect those individuals to have backup medicine if they need it, or backup food. There's no chance. So it was an odd set of circumstances here, because in the neighborhood where I live, the power was out, but the town had power further into town. But there was also an odd thing which I found interesting is not only was the weather not good, and it was raining, and like I said, there were down power lines periodically throughout town, although the vast majority of the town had power. It's almost as if everybody loses the ability to know how to operate an automobile, and no one knows how to drive in moments like this, when they're going from point A to point B, and people's blood pressure is raised, and people don't know what's going on. And when you have two sections of society that are experiencing the opposite end of a particular situation, specifically a group of people whose power is out, and then a group of people who don't know that people's power is out, and you find yourself in the same location. There's certainly a completely different sense of urgency among those two groups of people. The people who have no power are usually at a particular location because they're trying to remedy their problem. And then you have other individuals just strolling around, just acting like there's no issue because as far as they're concerned, where they live, there is no issue. So when you see that very odd back and forth dynamic, what of course happens, and we experienced this in 2020 with all the toilet paper buying from all the weirdos, but what happens when everybody's power goes out? And a group of individuals, again, the vast majority of society will say, finds themselves in a particular location, and they're trying to get resources to remedy the problem. Do you think these people are going to be civil? Do you think that these people are going to, help one another? Absolutely not. It's going to be a free-for-all. In fact, let me read this one post that was on Great Awakening just very quickly. It says, quote, "The North Carolina National Guard has been spotted in Marion, North Carolina. I'm praying they can make it up Marion Mountain to get to these small towns. The reports I am getting are devastating. Walmart is closed, has been looted. My niece has worked there for years. It's been emptied out. Ingalls is underwater, can't be looted. There's an area at the Parkway on 226 with spotty service. My niece was able to speak to her sister. Samantha heard someone crying in the background. Lizzie was crying. Spruce Pine is in very rough shape. My mom's house is not livable, but she said they are staying there right now. I will post pictures as soon as I can get them. No electricity or water. They do have a well and a spring on Houghton Road, if I'm saying that right. Gas for vehicles are an issue. This is going to be a long rescue and recovery process. Many roads are impassable and landslides are a major issue. Mountain people are tough and resilient. They are survivors, preppers. My mom and her house before the storm." Okay, and then she included pictures. I'm familiar with Spruce Pine, North Carolina. Same thing with Chimney Rock. And I've been there before and visited there once. My parents have been there multiple times, and my aunt and uncle who live in North Carolina have been there more than my parents have. But these are beautiful little mountain towns. Again, higher elevation, you wouldn't think that there'd be a problem from a hurricane coming up from Florida. But these towns are wiped out. They're completely wiped out. The roadways are gone. The small mom and pop businesses are gone. And I don't mean that they're filled with water. I mean they're gone. These were businesses that backed up right to a beautiful river. And again, that's all it took. Mudslides, landslides, the river overflowing and then just flat out destroying the entire foundation and then sweeping all of these buildings away into nothing. Again, America is not ready for this. America is not ready for power lines to go down in their neighborhood weeks at a time, let alone someone nefariously hitting an EMP or even a grid switch that again hijacks the power or any length of time. Again, it's links in a chain here. And it is dominoes as well. And this is not something again that Americans are prepared for. They just aren't. It doesn't matter where they live. They can live and be again the so-called preppers in the mountains all they want. They can live in the suburbs, they can live in urban areas, they can live in rural areas. It doesn't matter. They're not prepared for something like this. And Duke Energy, for example, the power company that of course does a lot of maintenance up and down the East Coast, and certainly in Ohio, they would be stretched too thin. They just would be. It took them over 24 hours to repair and replace a transformer in one location in one neighborhood. And that, again, was locally where I live. But as soon as a hurricane goes out and takes place, Duke Energy and their employees and all their trucks, they tend to go directly to the sites that are the most impacted. And again, I don't know how many employees they have or other companies that they outsource. I would love to have someone who knows far more about that subject, certainly than I do, which they would have to know far more than I do. I'm a novice on the subject, but I would love to know the actual specifics about where they go, how often they go, how many employees they have. Have they ever experienced being stretched too thin? And basically, what is their limit? I mean, what is the exact limit in which they can maintain their job and do the thing that they need to do without causing too much of of chaos in other areas? Now, I don't know if any of that made sense, but sorry, again, foggy brain here. But either way, if you examine, for example, an urban environment, if you cut off power and you cut off the ability for anybody in an urban environment to use a debit card or any digital currency of any kind, ladies and gentlemen, pardon my French, but they're fucked. This right here should prove what's happened here over the last few days, okay, and certainly half week regarding this hurricane should prove to people that electric vehicles and digital currency are the last thing that this country needs. No one needs this. And the more that we move in that direction, regardless of how fast or slow we move in that direction, we're still moving in the wrong direction. We cannot maintain any kind of a digital currency because, of course, for rather obvious reasons, you won't be able to access shit. You can't access anything in moments like this. And I know that that's been discussed before. I'm not the first person to say that. But it's one hell of a reminder and a rubber mallet over the head that people need to wake the hell up when it comes to this stuff. These AI systems can go straight to hell as far as I'm concerned. I've said it from day one. I've never liked them, never will. I don't trust them. I don't like them. It's right in the same wavelength as the digital currency bullshit. I don't like any of it. And all this does would enslave people right down to the very end during an actual crisis like this. It's over flippin' whelming that anybody would actually support such a thing, because these are the very people who flip their shit when when their cell phone runs out of power. I'm not going to be able to play Words with Friends, or I can't play a game on my cell phone. Well, too flippin' bad. Too bad. You're not going to be able to access money. You're not going to be able to access gasoline or any kind of food of any kind, because again, these people would have nothing in their homes in order to survive. So what happens when you, of course, take away your ability to obtain money or obtain food? Well, like in that post you just heard, you have looting. And that's in a mountain town. That's not in an urban environment. Urban environments would be overrun. It'd be arguably some of the most dangerous places to go, and people would get raped, killed, beaten, mugged. They'd have all of their belongings stolen. I mean, you name it. And then, of course, people would be going door to door because they would want whatever is inside of those homes, whether it even be just shelter and a roof over their head, let alone anything else. I mean, honest to shit, if you want to take down America, this is how you do it. It's that simple. You just unplug things for about a week, and all hell would break loose, nationwide. That's all it would take. Now, let me focus in very quickly on a couple other links in this chain that I think are rather important. If a person had a generator and a person had gasoline, again, if you're hooking up one appliance or two appliances or multiple appliances to said generator for X amount of time, you need copious amounts of gasoline. And I'm not talking just a few gallons. I mean, you would need 50 to 100 gallons at least, to maybe get you through 1 month worth of running one single generator. And that's periodically. That's running the generator periodically a 6,500 watt generator periodically over the course of a month. Not nonstop, but again, off and on, multiple hours off, hour on, etc., etc. Who do you think has hundreds of gallons of gasoline just on hand? How many average Americans have a generator, let alone that much gasoline on hand? It's next to zero. Even like I said earlier, these YouTube preppers, and here's a list of things you need to get, and goop, goop, goop. I'm sorry. Those people don't have hundreds of gallons of gasoline on their property. They aren't prepared, not in the slightest. Which means, again, if you can go without a generator, great, because ultimately everybody would end up having to go without power and without a generator and without the ability to maintain any kind of food from an appliance maintainment standpoint, if that makes any sense. So basically, long story short on all that food is gone, which means having other storable food that you can heat up either via propane or an open flame or something along those lines, that's really your next step. But even that isn't even possible for copious amounts of Americans, certainly those who live in or around urban areas. These people are screwed. They're absolutely screwed. The only thing they might have, and of course these are the non-homeless people I'm talking about, the only thing that they would have is a roof over their head. That would be about it. Eventually they would run out of food. And then what would happen to them? Are they going to leave? Are they just going to walk around a city and see what's up and just see what they can scrounge together? That's remarkably dangerous. Not to mention, what's the percentage of individuals who live in these areas who carry a gun with any regularity, let alone own one? These are not safe areas. These are not smart people who live within these areas. They aren't even thinking about such a thing. Power going out for a day is an inconvenience to them. It going out for a week would be a fucking nightmare. It'd be an absolute nightmare. And they would be forced to recognize that they are not prepared for anything, let alone the reasons why it would be happening. I mean, they wouldn't even be able to comprehend any of that. Again, sorry for cursing, but this is serious stuff, and it truly bothers me. Again, when I witness these things and I see these things occur, people have no idea. Again, there would be no law enforcement. Law enforcement would be stretched far too thin. They'd be helping the elderly lady whose ventilator has gone out because they don't have any power. So that one person, and I saw this when I was driving around the other day. I saw this. It was a home that had a tree down in front of the home. The home didn't appear to be damaged by any stretch. I couldn't even tell that the driveway was blocked necessarily, but the power may or may not have been out. But either way, this one home, this one house, had 2 police officers, an ambulance, and a fire truck. Just in the town where I live. One house, one person, one so-called emergency. And it could have been. Because later, after I passed it and I was heading back in the opposite direction, actually back toward where I had just seen this all happen, the ambulance was flying past me with a police SUV flying in the middle of the road. Seemed a bit unnecessary, but flying in the middle of the road past me, heading toward the hospital. And I thought, again, count up those resources, count up that so-called manpower for just one house. If people lose power on a grand scale in some town or city, police can't handle this. There's no way. It would be impossible. Which then again, it kind of brings this into play, which is, if you have individuals who don't know what's going on, again, we're talking about cumulative risk here, which you've heard me bring up before. But you have individuals who, number one, don't know what the hell's going on in the world. Number two, view a power outage as an inconvenience rather than an opportunity to prepare for what might be a longer power outage in the future. Not that they need to know the reasons as to why that would happen, let alone their ability to comprehend the reasons why that would happen. But either way, they wouldn't be prepared for that. And that leads, of course, then into number 3, which is how many people would leech off of the people who know what's going on and might have the resources. But then again, those people, for example, myself, would have resources for us, but not resources for other people. Again, these individuals would start coming to the person who is somewhat prepared, so they think. And I'll fully admit, I'm not prepared either. I mean, ultimately, everything would shut down. Like I said earlier, food would go bad in fridges and freezers, and that's just the way that it would be, unless, of course, it was frozen outside, in which case you could throw all the food into a snow pile and everything would be fine. But everybody knows that that's not how it operates nationwide across America throughout the entire course of a year. Certainly not even during the wintertime. But even, again, with that said, the people who aren't prepared, and I'm not even talking about like your average prepper. I'm talking about, even they aren't prepared, but I'm talking about the dead asleep people. They're not even prepared. Which means you would have them going door to door in their immediate areas, basically asking, hey, can I borrow this? Hey, can I borrow that? Hey, can I have some of this? Hey, can I have some of that? I mean, you've got to be able to say no to these people. We're stretched too thin. We don't have enough resources. We barely have enough for ourselves, myself, let alone anybody else. Again, this is a huge issue here. This is a big, big problem that the vast majority of Americans are not considering. Now, again, I read the tweet on Friday's episode from the FBI whistleblower who was telling people, you'd better have 3 to 4 months worth of food and water, because he doesn't trust the 3-letter agencies and he doesn't trust them to roll back things, and you shouldn't rely on government and so on and so on. Let me play his audio right here real quick so you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Give him a listen in 3, 2, 1.
This is a warning to the American people, I say. I personally have no confidence that the FBI will rein in its own conduct. I have been persecuted along with Garrett, Steve and Kyle, and countless other whistleblowers. It is my opinion that the Bureau used reprisal and fear to control the workforce. It has been a seemingly effective tactic. I personally believe that there are no current effective checks and balances against them conducting lawless action with any type of correction in a legitimate time frame. I welcome the work of the IG, but I think any type of lawless action, there's no legitimate time frame to rein them back in. Their ability to overclassify information can allow them to stonewall forever. To the American people, you have a duty as a citizen to vote, and I strongly urge you to do so. It's how you participate in the American experience. I know people have doubts about election integrity, but you must vote. It is your claim. Stake your claim and don't forfeit it willingly. Have your voice heard. My other recommendations are in the natural order. First, vote. The second is the Second Amendment. Arm yourself and know how to defend yourself. Make 3 to 4 friends in your neighborhood and promise to come to each other's mutual aid in times of hardship. And during the Great Depression, people stocked up a pantry. So I think that's a good practice, especially in our economic times, and make sure you have 3 to 4 months of food. As a person of faith, I'd say pray the rosary, go to the First Friday devotions. That's for everybody, all my brothers and sisters of all faiths, and I know I'm Catholic, and read the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and live it every day. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
You know, Mr. Allen, the fact that there are servants like you who have borne up under persecution that a lot of political leaders in this country do not care about is the thing that heartens the American people. And I'm confident the American people will resolve the situation, no matter how weak Washington is in response.
Again, I understand he's a whistleblower, of course, former FBI agent, Mr. Allen, and he's speaking about the lack of trust in the 3-letter agency, of course, and the way that they operate. They're not the only ones that operate that way. Hell, the American K-12 school system operates in the exact same way. It's an environment of fear, because most of these environments are. But with that said, I'd have come back at him and I'd have simply asked, why do you say 3 to 4 months worth of food and water? I mean, what leads you to believe that that's necessary? I would have pried into that a little bit more and asked him a little bit more about why he would say that. Rather specific point that he was making there. Arm yourselves, he openly said. When he was saying this in front of those on the proverbial left and right in this judiciary hearing or whatever the hell it was. Again, this is an issue. Comments like that under oath should not be taken lightly. That's a big deal. And this is a guy who knows things. This is a guy who has probably seen and read things that we have not seen and read. Although we've read a great deal and we've seen a great deal and we can put these things together, but that's a rather serious warning. I think it's something people should take very seriously and heed that warning. At the exact same time, let me mention this because this is a local issue, although again, it magnifies what is actually going on nationwide. In the town where I live, City Council has acquired whatever it is, or they've set aside $70-some-odd million for infrastructure. So you drive around town, and what you see is not only, of course, is the illegal intake center, or as they would call it, the transportation hub. Not only does that have a roof on it now and completely enclosed and getting bigger by the second, but there's new power posts and telephone lines, or telephone posts rather, that are lying around on the ground, basically in the locations where they're apparently going to be going up. That's all fine and dandy. Except in a power outage, or a branch, and it's this simple, ladies and gentlemen, it's a branch falling on a power line, that's all it takes for all hell to break loose. And people, again, to not have power and to lose power. And if that happens on a grander scale, as I said earlier, with resources stretched too thin, it's not going to matter how much infrastructure you think you're repairing. If a piece of it breaks, well then, there's slack again. You have a link out of the chain again that's broken. You have slack in the chain that is beyond evident. And then what? Again, if the resources are stretched too thin, you don't have individuals there to fix it. And your average American doesn't know how to fix this kind of thing. I mean, your neighbors aren't going to go, well, okay, let's grab those power lines and rehook them up and make sure everybody has your power turned off at your house while we're playing with this thing, and we'll do what we have to do and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're not trained to do that. That's for professionals. They're trained to do it. They know how to do it. They travel across the nation and they live locally and travel to other states in order to fix these things. But my God, if they can't get from point A to point B, because bridges are out and roadways are completely demolished and rivers are overflown, it's not going to take much to completely disrupt endless people in America. And again, back to the whole looting thing. I mean, good Lord. You're going to have, and I'm going to be fair here. I mean, it's not just going to be the Browns who are looting particular places. It'll be whites too. It'll be every race of human being looting these places. I mean, desperation would set in, and you would have individuals who have never committed a crime in their life breaking glass to break into these places to feed their families, to get a tank of gas or get whatever they have to do, a fire starter, whatever it may be, to keep their family warm or keep their family, eating over an open flame or whatever it may be. People have not seen what could happen in this country yet. People are not prepared. They just aren't. Again, I could take this a million other ways, but in fact, I'll take it in this direction. There's all this talk about there being a bunch of strikes at the ports of entry regarding goods and services coming into our country and leaving our country on October 1st. Now, I have no proof that this is the case. I just have a bunch of people online yelling about this and basically saying this is what would happen and people wouldn't be able to have the things that they need and goods and services wouldn't, be able to move from point A to point B and there would be shortages and so on and so on. Again, if this is true, why is this happening? Number one. And number two, what's the long-term consequences of that? Hell, what's the short-term consequences of such a thing? And then again, I always fall back on the people who don't even know that. They don't even know that that is, right there is a point of discussion, whether it be a rumor or substantiated with actual fact to back it up or what have you. The simple fact that is a conversation that is being had. Ask yourself how many Americans know that that's a conversation that's actually being had. I would venture to guess next to zero. It's a very small percentage of people that even know that this is happening, that this is a conversation. I mean, let me give you an example here. More people know that Donald Trump and Kid Rock and a bunch of other people were being applauded at a college football game the other day between whatever it was, Alabama and Georgia. And how cool is this scene, and this is great, and this is amazing, and blah, blah, blah. There are people who can't feed themselves right now. So, pardon the, I'm going to put aside voting for Donald Trump for just a minute, which of course I am. But at the exact same time, if people's priorities are out of whack here, I could give a damn about a standing ovation at a football game for the current commander-in-chief and former president. I don't care. There are people who can't get from point A to point B and are stranded in our country right now because they don't have power and they don't have the means to survive. This is an issue. But don't worry, let's keep passing around video of Trump being applauded at a football game because that matters. That doesn't matter at all. People are not prepared. They don't have the mindset here. They truly don't. We are ripe for the picking as a country. Now, I could be a little jacked up here, and not only because I'm ill and I just happened to watch Red Dawn last week for the first time in God knows how long. Yes, the 1980s version, which is the only version anybody needs to watch. But at the exact same time, as jacked up as that movie will get you, even they weren't prepared. I mean, good for them. They had guns and, whatever, and it's fictitious and XYZ. But it's a reminder that your average American just doesn't know what the hell's going on. You have individuals who quite literally would walk up to the enemy like they did at the beginning of that movie with the school teacher walking out and go, hey, what's all this about? And then he gets blown away with a machine gun to the chest. And then again, students drop to the ground and then they start running around and some are scared and some are still pointing around like, hey, what's going on? This seems confusing. Those individuals standing up and asking questions about things being confusing aren't going to be the people who make it. And when you throw in the element of illegal aliens who don't have access to their multi-$1,000 EBT or debit cards given to them by government, and all of a sudden those don't work, where do you think those people are going to go? Where are they going to go for their resources? Yes, they will loot places. There's no doubt about it. But then where will they go? Once the looting is over, and once those resources are expended, where are they coming next? They're coming for small towns. They're coming for suburban areas. They may even get in a large group and go after a rural household or a farmhouse or something along those lines. Farm animals, of course. This is already happening. I mean, this is a scenario that is already taking place here, and they have power in Springfield, Ohio. They have power in these towns where these farm animals are being slaughtered. And your average pets are being slaughtered in the streets, or stray dogs and cats and what have you. I mean, that's a very real thing, and that's with electricity. So what happens, again, when the power goes out for any length of time? So yeah, people should have guns, and they should have ammo, and the ability to protect themselves and their property, and the whole thing, because places will get broken into. Chicken coops will get raided. If people are, let their pets out at night without them being supervised on a leash or otherwise, yeah, they're going to get slaughtered. Because if these individuals, whatever you want to call them, these illegals who are clearly here and soaking up our resources and invading everything, when they lose access to their free shit that they've been given to government, they're coming after us. There's no doubt about it. In fact, some of the first places they're going to go are probably the cities. And then they're going to use up all the people within the cities and their resources, and specifically the people who can't protect themselves. And as I've said, these people are everywhere. And here's the most embarrassing part, and this has already happened too. Although not on a grand scale in this particular power outage scenario, but this has also happened just in general society, where the left-wing lunatic, the virtue-signaling do-gooder, reaches out their hands in an effort to hug one of these illegal immigrants and say, "Come in, I'll help you, I'll save you." The left-wing lunatic who extends themselves as an olive branch to help these individuals will get slaughtered. They'll be murdered first, and then their homes will be inhabited by illegals. Illegals will take all of their shit because they're dead, so they don't need it anymore because they were, just trying to hug them and help them. Although at the end of the day, their head gets cut off and put on a stake in their front yard. But either way, don't worry, they just wanted a good old-fashioned hug. They just wanted that illegal who's carrying a machete, can't speak English, to let them know that they are there to help them. That don't worry, the policies that I voted for in this country are here to help you, and I've done nothing but support you, and I've donated to this charity, and then whack. Then their head is off of their shoulders. These illegals don't give a shit about do-gooders. And they're not going to give a damn about anybody who supported them or gave to some charity or flew them here or what have you. When the power goes out and no one has resources or the ability to access the things that they take advantage of and take for granted on a day in and day out basis. This is where the rubber is going to meet the road and the bullet's going to hit the bone here. This is where all rules get thrown out the window. People have not thought about this. Again, a perfect example was when I was driving around the other day, and like I said, I had some errands to run to get shit. I mean, I had to get things, gasoline and a number of other things. Because again, even I'm not prepared here. We're not prepared here. So as much as, we have things stored away, which is nice, but at the exact same time, sorry, we're just not ready to rock and roll, not for any length of time. But I'm driving around town, and like I said, people had power. But I'm also driving past some of these homes of people that I know who live there, and I'm wondering to myself again, are they there because they don't have power, so they're visiting other people that they know? Or it's a Saturday. Are they all gathered around the idiot box watching a football game, not knowing that other people in their own town have trees on top of their homes, power lines down, no way to access food, water, etc., etc. Because again, they don't have the resources and they just don't have the power. That right there is again a cognitive difference and a divide that's going on in society right now, where again people are wasting their time on bread and circus bullshit, and they're not paying attention to the fact that if all power goes out, your precious football game goes away, and you're going to have to think about doing some really serious shit on your property or in your area and keeping your head on a swivel regarding everything that could happen or might happen. This situational awareness is lost on endless people. And again, it's exhausting to think about, and it really is tiring. Like I said, I'm not getting any sleep whatsoever, and I probably sound like a flippin' lunatic right now, but at the same time, I'm not saying this to make people fearful. I'm saying this because I can see this at face value. This is obvious to me. That you have, again, I was in Lowe's the other day. We're talking about the exact same day. It was Saturday. I was in Lowe's. And I'm watching people work and move around at one pace. And then I'm watching people move around like they're a sloth. And they're just, humming and hoeing around. And they're just, buying Halloween decorations for their front yards like retards. I mean, they're spending hundreds of dollars. I know you've seen these things. And they drive me up the wall. And if you have these, I don't mean to insult you, but here comes the insulting part. Everybody's got, I'm seeing these giant skeletons in people's yards. These things are not cheap. They're not cheap. They're hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. There's a guy who lives on my street who's got one of those 9-foot tall bastards. It's at least 9 feet. It's that big one. And then what he has is, because he's retarded, he has another one that is a dog. And the dog is equally as big, almost as big as the giant skeleton. And then there's kid skeletons. And then the kid skeletons are carrying a casket. This shit is not cheap. Think of the mind frame of that individual to say to themselves, you know what I want to spend thousands of dollars on? I want to spend thousands of dollars on useless satanic decorations for my front yard that I leave up for over an entire month. In fact, he's had this shit up since the beginning of September. Last year, he had it up in his front yard in the middle of August. So there's certainly some, screws that are loose. That goes without saying. But he's got all these skeletons in this giant skeleton family in his front yard that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. But if you were to ask this guy, does he have storable food, storable water, 100 gallons of gasoline in a generator, he'd look at you and go, well, why in the fuck would I need that? I mean, this is the mindset of these people. He can't be trusted. And if he comes down to my house, I'm going to tell him to go pound sand. Maybe he should burn those giant plastic skeletons for sustenance and feed it to his children. I mean, this is the kind of, again, this is the problem. When I was in Lowe's, I have video footage of this. I took it with my phone. Have you seen this? It's two giant skeletons. I can't even believe I'm saying this. Oh my God. I mean, I have a smile on my face and almost tears running down my face. It's two robotic skeletons that have basically robes on, and they're the big bastards. They're like, these massive 9-foot things. Both of these skeletons are playing a guitar. They have a guitar in their hands, both of them. And it's hooked up to a giant motor with lights and music and the whole thing. And they're bobbing up and down and side to side, like the Chuck E. Cheese band back in the day. But they're skeletons. This has to cost thousands of dollars. Someone buys this. I mean, people are buying this in Lowe's, which is loaded with material that you would need to survive in a serious emergency. But people blow past all that stuff. And they go, nope, you know what? I'm here for the skeleton band. That's what I need. That's what I need to spend my money on. That's not a person who's going to survive. That's a person who, when the power goes out, that precious little skeleton band isn't going to work. And then they're not going to knock on your door. And then they're going to ask you for help. And then what? And they're going to show up with their kids and go, please, we don't have anything. What do you do in that situation? This is a scenario that many Americans, again, they're just not. This is what not being awake is going to cause a problem for those of us who are. And for those of us who are, we are not in a position to help these people. We aren't. Because those people aren't in a position to help themselves. I see skeletons in your yard, I assume you're certifiable. It's that simple. I assume you have no food, you have no water, you might have a gun, you might have a sense of humor, but you have no common sense. And you're not living in today's world. Again, no offense, I strike it right up there with the individuals, again, who spend money on Halloween candy at this day and age. And sit out and hand out Halloween candy. And someone would say, Sean, get a sense of humor and settle down and stop taking shit so seriously. Why are you spending hundreds of dollars on Halloween candy when you can spend that amount of money on gasoline? When you can spend that amount of money on storable food that you're going to need when the power goes out? And 1,000 other things. I'm talking about power going out for a week. Okay? That the vast majority of Americans aren't prepared for power going out for a week. Let alone a month. They don't have that kind of water. They just don't. To drink, bathe themselves, wash their hands if they have to, if they have to do work outside and get something done, no chance. We are not prepared. This has been the episode. I had a couple other things to discuss here, but I'm going to make just this the episode. We are not prepared. And even the preppers and even the people who, show off their safes with all their guns and their walk-in closets with all their guns everywhere, and all these dipshits on YouTube who are like, look at all my guns. Look at all my, $1 million worth of guns and this, that, and the other, and I've got this and I've got that. Good for you. Good for you. But if the power goes out, what are you going to do with those guns? You going to link them all together to get the power going again? Is that how that works? Of course not. Even those battery-powered, home-operated Generac systems, okay? Generac's a massive company, but those don't last forever. Those don't last for weeks on end, which means those people, those so-called individuals who spend all that money on that, again, people probably know more about this than I do, but I'm of the understanding that those don't last forever, and that those have a time limit on them also. Again, I'm glad that they have backup systems in that regard. Good for them. Those people are the vast minority of the population in America. Again, my point here is this. I think you get it at this point. It's not just a lack of preparation for things that you need around you or that we need around us. It's the people who don't have it who aren't even thinking about it. It's the multiple scenarios that people are not considering in any situation. Again, people are more interested in moving around tweets and videos and, Donald Trump was at a football game and look at the round of applause he got, and Tim Walz got booed at a Michigan game and this, that, and the other. Great. We know who America likes by and large and who America does not. We also know that there's a fraction of the population who understands the left-right paradigm. We also understand that the lobby is involved in all of this and that they themselves are manipulating copious amounts of people and continuing to distract individuals with this who's better liked and this popularity contest back and forth and the other. But what is the average individual American doing to think about what they need to do in a moment of crisis? I'd venture to guess very, very little, and very few people are thinking about this. And I know for a fact, too, that there are endless individuals who consistently rely on other individuals to help them out with things. They'll call somebody up and they'll say, hey, can you help me out with this or can you help me out with that? Eventually, the person you call for help, who would normally in a situation be like, yeah, I can help you. What if that person can't help themselves? Then what? Then the person who needs help from the person who can't help themselves can't be helped. So then both parties are screwed. Again, I'm not saying this to be fatalistic. I'm saying this because this is situational awareness. This is unfortunately the cognitive dissonance that takes place among those who claim to be awake and claim to be aware of what's actually happening in the world. And I don't think they know. They don't know. They don't know how little it takes to break something in the United States of America, and then all hell breaks loose. Our infrastructure sucks. It flat out sucks. In the neighborhood where I live, you're talking about 40-year-old transformers. These transformers are 40 plus years old. These power posts and power lines are 40 plus years old. What's that mean? How long are they going to last? How long are things like this going to last? And again, it doesn't matter, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you've got the latest, greatest, brand new shit, top of the line stuff, no problem. One tree branch is all it takes, and then pow, all hell breaks loose. And then again, if those resources aren't there to fix that in lickety-split, well, you've got some decisions to make then. So, again, I would encourage people to do this. If you can control something, shore things up as much as humanly possible. Sit down with yourself. Sit down with a family member, your family members. Make a huge list of things that you think you need to get. And I'm telling you right now, water is at the top of that list as far as I'm concerned. Most people who probably listen to this show have guns and ammo. I'd say you're set in that department. No problem. It's water. How are you going to get water? Usable water. To wash yourself with, to drink, etc., etc. Water for your pets as well. Things of that nature. Be prepared to lose all food in your freezers and everything else. And of course, you're not, you're going to have to get rid of that somehow before it starts stinking up the joint. And then, once that happens, then you're left with an open flame, and you're left with canned food and boxed food and the 25-year-old food rather that lives in a bag, and then you rip it open and mix it with water and then heat it up and then eat it and whatever else. Then you're left with that. Again, I pray that this doesn't happen, and this all stems from me praying for the people who have lost everything from this hurricane. Again, people up north saw this hurricane hit Florida and they went, well, that sucks to be them. Sucks to live in Florida during hurricane season. And those same people now who said that, who live in a northern state, have absolutely nothing. They have nothing left. Because they didn't think that that bridge would go away. They didn't think that that river was going to get too high. They didn't think that that creek was going to overflow. They didn't think their house was going to get washed away, or their business would no longer exist, or that the power would go out. Those same people who were saying, well, thank God I don't live in Florida, and, they know what to do and whatever else, and it's their choice to live there, and that's the way that it is. Again, I've lived there before. I've lived on the Gulf Coast for 10 years. I lived there for 10 years. I know how quickly a storm can come right up, a water level can come up right to your front door. And I lived at sea level. I lived right on the water. And it's intimidating. And it is scary. You're going, wow, this is interesting. And there's a little excitement at the beginning of all of it. I even saw this. I couldn't believe I saw this. And I don't know what was going on with this, but like I said, the power was out in my town here in Southwest Ohio. And there were police, again, sort of making the rounds, and the weather was not great, and it was raining, and they're driving around, and I assume that they're patrolling. But I'm also seeing police officers parked in the same spots where they would pick off a speeder. So even in a moment of crisis, some of these cops can't help but write themselves a speeding ticket for somebody because they have a quota to meet here at the end of the month. And they know that during a power outage and people needing supplies, that they're likely to get in their automobiles and start speeding around to get shit rather quickly. I don't think we can trust these cops. I don't think that we can trust these people in these situations. Well, you were speeding a little bit, sir, and, it's bad weather out and you need to take your time and slow down a little bit and whatever else. Well, I'm here to help you and I'm here to save lives. Fuck you. Fuck those people and fuck those cops. I can govern myself. I didn't get a speeding ticket, thank God, but I did see this cop and I slowed down and I thought to myself, you son of a bitch. You're sitting there and you're picking off people who are speeding into town to get supplies to take back to their families because they don't have something that they desperately need, so they think. This is where the state turns against us in a moment like this. And like I said, they'd be stretched too thin also. Apparently, they're not stretched too thin to write a speeding ticket for somebody. But this is a huge problem. Cops can't handle this. Cops aren't prepared for this. EMT workers, firefighters, they're not prepared for this. And you'd better believe your local do-gooder, chest out, nose in the air, city council and mayor, they're on another planet. They have no idea, let alone prepared for themselves and their own family, let alone be able to manage a town or a city. No chance. No chance. Government isn't ready for this. They're not ready for any kind of a grand-scale outage of any kind that lasts longer than a week or even a month or even multiple months. Not a chance. So I digress here, but again, I recommend people sit down with their families around the dinner table, write out a list of what you need. If you think you have everything, I assure you, you don't. Because I don't either. And I'm not saying I'm at the top of anything. I'm not. I'm toward the bottom, but I'm aware of what's going on. And there are just endless people who don't. Because those people aren't sitting around with their immediate family members and wargaming any particular long-term power outage. Again, all you have to do is see how people behave when the power goes out for 24 to 48 to 72 hours. And then multiply that by months. And just watch that behavior just, again, it would become completely unmanageable. If you, again, just very quickly, I want to stop this episode and end this here, but if you get back to the looting aspect of this, you can't possibly maintain that. I mean, you can't, not maintain it, you can't stop it. There would be massive looting. And it wouldn't just, like I said earlier, just be minorities. It would be everybody looting. And there wouldn't be police able to stop it. They'd say, let it happen, you have insurance, you can replenish yourselves, they need this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Cops would take a back seat. Instantly. There's nothing saying cops wouldn't take off their uniforms, put on plain clothes, and go loot themselves if they had to. They probably would. But if you think that, again, some left-wing or right-wing city council member or county commissioner or mayor or what have you would be able to rein in control on anything, or some sheriff or sheriff's department, you're out to lunch. No chance. No chance. They wouldn't want to get anywhere close to these environments that are being looted. And they wouldn't be able to, again, to help anybody because they'd be in the exact same situation. So they would, again, gaslight people and say, you can trust us, we're here to help you, we're going to set up this, we're going to set up that, we're going to help people. Bullshit. And any tents that they set up to help people would get looted and overrun too. You would see what people are capable of in such a situation. Mark my words, I guarantee it. This is something the United States has not seen before yet. And I'm not talking about an economic depression on an economic scale. I'm talking about a power outage. That's about it. The economy's bad enough, but I'm just talking about your average power outage. That right there would create a massive amount of chaos. And when you throw that into a weather situation, again, it's already happening across the United States right now. A lot of people are pissed. A lot of people are paying attention to this. And some people are too busy watching ESPN right now. And that drives me up the wall. So, again, I'm going to close this episode out, or else I'm just going to keep revisiting and rambling everything that I've already said. Sit down with your family members, get a list going, and then go out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and please acquire the things that you think you need to get done in a short and long term that you think you need to get done. This has to happen. People have to do this. So, again, thanks for listening to the rants. Thanks for listening to this. I appreciate it. Again, still not feeling well, but I'll be back with more stuff on Wednesday, I promise, hopefully. And again, sorry for not having a war video on Saturday. I was out of power, and there you go. So, yeah. Continue to pray, please, for the people who have lost everything. It's not just Florida, ladies and gentlemen. It really isn't. It's places where you wouldn't think. It's mountain towns in North Carolina. It's mountain towns in Virginia and other places that were devastated by all of this. So, if people think we're prepared, and if you as an individual think you're prepared, I would just say we need to humble ourselves a little bit and recognize that we're probably not. So, there you go. With that said, let's hope we have a better week. And yeah, we need to prepare. No doubt about it. I'll catch you on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.